Y'all, I am in the background. Sometimes I mute my mic at the beginning, but this time I decided not to. I'm just getting ready, checking some things out on my channel. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Like off in La La Land. Okay, I think I'm done on this page. Although I'll leave it there in case I need to leave a message. Let's go here. No, it'll. I was gonna check my intermission screen and then I remembered it'll stop the start streaming screen and it'll reset the clock and. I will do it when I get to the start reading part. I wanted to share some of what I'm planning to do this summer. Not what I'm doing, but plans for what I'm doing. All right, everybody, this is Venus Brown. I am back with another Handmaid's Tale reading. We are going to be starting on a part called Soul Scrolls. This is another look at some of the performative religiosity that goes on in Gilead. Plus, we're going to be taking a look at a little bit of some of the consequences of these seemingly innocent Scrabble games with June, or at least innocent enough. I still think that it's far from innocent. He has some knowledge of what he is doing and what it is doing to the handmaids that he participates in these types of actions with. And even if it isn't his intention to fuck things up, he knows from the past handmaid, which we'll learn more about later in the story, that it does fuck things up. It fucks things up worse than they already are. In that what he's doing is kind of trying to soften the relationship, get the handmaid to let down their guard and soften up around him and have more of an intimate relationship with them, so that I guess so he feels better about what he's doing, maybe so he can get it up. I don't know, but it is fucked up. It is fucked up and it screws up things, and plus other things that he'll do later on are just even more fucked up. And we'll see that later on. Not in these chapters. It will come later. I think after the Soul Scrolls part, and the Soul Scrolls part actually has several chapters. So I don't know why it has several chapters though, because the only thing I remember about Soul Scrolls was like one teeny little part of the book and of the TV show, but whatever. All right, let's go ahead, get to the reading section. Is it reading? Actually, no. Before we do the reading section, let me see if I have. If I do. Okay, so let's close this section. Okay, I am going to. Okay, so this summer we are planning to go to Ireland. I just wanted to show because I'm excited. Yes, I am live streaming, just so you know. Yeah, I know you don't care, but
I'm not talking.
you're not talking, but your keys always ring and you make noise, and I always hear it later on when I go back editing my video. All right. Not that this is a video, this is live stream. But anyway, so we're planning to go to Ireland. This is my first time going to Ireland. My family on my mom's side is at least half Irish. I don't know exactly what my grandmother is. My grandfather is Irish. My mom has like hair the color of an old penny. My brother has hair the color of a new penny. The rest of us have various shades of blonde. Mine's more gray and whatever color I put in my hair, but it's always been kind of like a mix of different blondes and light brown and stuff like that. Anyway, first time going to Ireland, so I'm kind of excited. And yeah, we're gonna start out. We're gonna go. I don't think I have it set so that you can see my. Yeah, I don't have it set so you can see my arrow. But we're gonna start in this little. If you see the flickering down here, no, actually, we're gonna come in here. We're coming in here to Shannon. That's where we're flying in. And then we're going to Killarney, because we have one day trip that we're going to do from Killarney. I think it goes up into this this area in Dingle and stuff, and along the coast over here that we're going to do. And then after a day or two, we're going to leave Killarney. We're going to go up to Dublin, and we have like 3 day trips we're going to be doing from Dublin. Or no, we have 2 day trips plus a walking tour and a dinner. So we'll do that. We'll stay in Dublin for a few days. Then we're going to go up to Belfast. I haven't decided if we have 1 day trip from Belfast. I haven't decided if we're going to do it before or after we go to Edinburgh. So at some point, we'll be going up to Edinburgh, and I will actually go over to Lane Harbor to take the ferry. At least I think. I have to check the cost of travel and stuff to decide whether I want to take the ferry or go some other route. But right now the plan is to take the ferry from here, go up here and go to Edinburgh. There's a single day trip that we have from Edinburgh. I don't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter. We're going to be there for a couple days, then we'll come back. And either before or after that, we will do our day trip in Belfast. I think the Belfast one was like kind of Game of Thrones inspired or something like that. I think the Edinburgh one was Outlander inspired. So yeah, I mean we're doing the trip mainly on just these little day trips with odd and end things here and there in between. I haven't ordered any hotels or bed and breakfasts or hostels or anything like that yet, but I have been looking. When I marked out our plans with the little suitcase, when I did that, I went ahead and looked at some of the stuff that was around there for staying at. All right, and then, excuse me, after we're done in Belfast, then we're going to go up to Derry because I really want to see Derry. My first reactions to any show were to Derry Girls. I love that show. I would love to do another show like it. It was very different from most of the stuff that I have done or seen, and I would love to do something like that again. Um, it would have been great if they like did spin-offs or something, but they haven't. They did at least extend the seasons out to, I think it was season 4. So I got to see that. But anyway, we're going to go to Londonderry. We're going to do one of the walking tours to see some of the images around there. And plus I have some, I think if you zoom in, I have some places marked that I want to make sure that I get to before we leave. So I wanted to go to this shopping center. It looks interesting, at least from above. I definitely want to make sure I see the Dairy Girls mural, but there's a lot of other murals that I want to see. And the Bloody Sunday thing, like, probably the thing that I know most about Ireland is the story of Bloody Sunday and the Great Potato Famine. And that's about it. I'm not, and a little bit of the Troubles. And the only reason I know that much about the Troubles is because of Dairy Girls. That inspired me to actually look into it a little bit, because I was like, when I was seeing some of the information, when I was looking online about it, it was like, it was much longer than I realized, and it seemed like there were like stops and starts to it, so I wanted to get a little bit better information on it and have a little bit better understanding of what was going on with that. Okay, and then the Peace Flame I definitely want to go to, and I'm pretty sure the walking tour that we're going on will probably be seeing this stuff, and I want to go over the Peace Bridge. And I will probably be taking a closer look at my old at the Dairy Girls episodes again before I go on my trip. But anyway, I was just excited about that, so I wanted to show everybody my joy at my trip that I'm going to be doing. It's very exciting. Woohoo! Okay, anyway, I think it's time for us to go ahead and get to the actual readings. I'm going to go to the reading scene. No, wait, let's do this first. Boom. So for chapter 25, not only are we seeing the whole Soul Scrolls thing, we're also going to be seeing more of what's going on with Fred and his Scrabble sessions. And this scenario where she is beginning to request exchanges of things, or he is exchanging things with her, I think, to get on her good side, basically. Get her more malleable. Anyway, let's go back to the reading scene. Okay, we are in part 10, Soul Scrolls, page 138, and chapter 25. What I heard first the next morning was a scream and a crash. Cora dropping the breakfast tray. It woke me up. I was still half in the cupboard, head on the bundled cloak. I must have pulled it off the hanger and gone to sleep there. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Cora was kneeling beside me. I felt her hand touch my back. She screamed again when I moved. "What's wrong?" I said. I rolled over, pushed myself up. "Oh," she said, I thought. "Oh," she said, I thought. "Oh, okay. Oh," she said, I thought. She thought what? Like, she said, the eggs had broken on the floor. There was orange juice and shattered glass. "I'll have to bring another one," she said. "Such a waste." "What was you doing on the floor like that?" She was pulling at me to get me up, respectably, onto my feet. I didn't want to tell her I'd never been to bed at all. There would be no way of explaining that. I told her I must have fainted. That was almost as bad because she seized on it. "It's one of the early signs," she said, pleased. "That and throwing up." She should have known there hadn't been time enough, but she was very hopeful. "No, it's not that," I said. I was sitting in the chair. "I'm sure it isn't that. I was just dizzy. I was just standing here and things went dark." "It must have been the strain," she said, "of yesterday and all. Takes it out of you." So in the show, a similar scenario happens, which I thought it happens in the book too. Maybe it does. I just don't remember. Like, I thought in the book later on, after Serena throws her freaking temper tantrum about June not being pregnant, that Rita comes in there and sees her like that. It happens on the show. I thought it happened in the book too, but I don't know for sure now because I don't think they would do such a similar scenario over again in the book, but it would have been at a different point, and it would have been for a different reason. And Rita on the show, I mean, the reality is what I said is going to happen with freaking Fred doing these game nights in his office, trying to make her more malleable and get more comfortable with him, has repercussions. And the repercussions, from what we could tell, happened with the previous Handmaid, and we'll hear more about it later. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, there's a big thing that's going to happen, and we'll find out about it later. And it's really fucking bad. And it is the direct result, in my opinion. I don't know for sure. They didn't go into it enough. But in my opinion, it is the direct result of this stuff. Him intentionally trying to warm her up and be more comfortable with him so that he can get away with doing more and more things that they are not supposed to be doing, even in Gilead. So, anyway, Cora's reaction was a reaction because of what had happened previously. And Rita's reaction in the show, same thing. Reaction because of what had happened previously. Now, on to the next page. "She meant the birth, and I said it did. By this time, I was... Oh, wait a minute. There was one other thing. Oh, yeah. So, if you remember correctly, at the end of the last chapter, the reason she was in the closet, she was, like, overwhelmed from the events of the day, I think. And she had, like, laid down in the closet looking at the Nolite Bastardos Carborundorum sign. And she passed out from that. Like, it was just an overwhelming night with everything that had gone on with the birthing ceremony and with the fucking Scrabble and, like, not knowing what the fuck was going to happen when she went into his office, because she's not supposed to be in his office, and, all kinds of scenarios could go over in your head. And I think she was very much entertaining the idea that he might have some fucking kinky ass sex raping scenario going on and she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. And so the Scrabble games seem much more innocent and they seem much better. They seem very trivial and innocent, but to me, they're just the starting of him trying to work his way into making her more comfortable. Anyway. Okay. So, she meant the birth, and I said it did. By this time, I was sitting in the chair, and she was kneeling on the floor, picking up the pieces of broken glass and egg, gathering them onto the tray. She blotted some of the orange juice with the paper napkin. I'll have to bring a cloth, she said. They'll want to know why the extra eggs. Unless you could do without. She looks up at me sideways slyly, and I saw that it would be better if we could both pretend I'd eaten my breakfast. After all, if she said she'd found me lying on the floor, there would be too many questions, which is what we deal with when Rita finds her later on, is that her having passed out on the floor, at least thinking that that's what happened, makes, in the next scenario, makes Rita think that something's wrong, which results in a trip to the hospital after they get through to Serena. But Serena is not the easiest person. She wasn't going to do anything about it at first. All right, anyway. Lost track. Okay. I hadn't eaten my breakfast after all. If she'd said she'd found me lying on the floor, there would be too many questions. She'd have to account for the broken glass in any case. But Rita would get surly if she had to cook a second breakfast. I'll do without, I said. I'm not that hungry. This was good. It fit in with the dizziness. But I could manage the toast, I said. I didn't want to go without breakfast altogether. It's been on the floor, she said. I don't mind, I said. I sat there eating the piece of brown toast while she went into the bathroom and flushed the handful of egg, which could not be salvaged, down the toilet. Then she came back. I'll say I dropped the tray on the way out, she said. It pleased me that she was willing to lie for me, even in such a small thing, even for her own advantage. It was a link between us. I smiled at her. I hope nobody heard you, I said. It did give me a turn, she said, as she stood in the doorway with the tray. At first, I thought it was just your clothes. Then I said to myself, what are they doing there on the floor? I thought maybe you'd run off, I said. Well, she said, but it was you. Yes, I said, it was. And it was, and she went out with the tray and came back with a cloth for the rest of the orange juice. And Rita, that afternoon, made a grumpy remark about some folks being all thumbs. Too much on their minds. Don't look where they're going, she said. And we continued on from there as if nothing had happened. That was in May. Spring has now been undergone. The tulips have had their moment and are done, shedding their petals one by one like teeth. One day I came upon Serena Joy kneeling on a cushion in the garden, her cane beside her on the grass. She was snipping off the seed pods with a pair of shears. I watched her sideways as I went past, with my basket of oranges and lamb chops. She was positioning the blades of the shears, then cutting with a convulsive jerk of the hands. Was it the arthritis creeping up? Or some blitzkrieg, some kamikaze committed on the swelling genitalia of the flowers, the fruiting body? To cut off the seed pods is supposed to make the bulbs store energy. Saint Serena on her knees doing penance. I often amused myself this way, with small, mean-minded, bitter jokes about her, but not for long. It doesn't do to linger, watching Serena Joy from behind. What I coveted was the shears. So, like, another thing, like, remember this time, like, she wanted to steal a knife, she wanted to take a blade, now she coveting Serena's shears. Well, then we had the irises rising beautiful and cool on their tall stalks, like blown glass, like pastel water momentarily frozen in a splash of light blue light, mauve and darker ones, velvet and purple. Black cat's ears in the sun, indigo shadow and the bleeding hearts so female in shape it was a surprise they'd not long since been rooted out. There is something subversive about this garden of Serena's, a sense of buried things bursting upwards, wordlessly into the light, as if to point, to say, whatever is silenced will clamor to be heard, though silently. A Tennyson garden, heavy with scent, languid. The return of the word swoon. Light pours down upon it from the sun, true, but also heat rises from the flowers themselves. You can feel it, like holding your hand an inch above an arm, a shoulder. It breathes in the warmth, breathing itself in. To walk through it in these days of peonies, of pinks and carnations, makes my head swim. The willow is in full plumage and is no help with its insinuating whispers. Rendezvous, it says. Terraces. The sibilants run up my spine, a shiver as if in fever. The summer dress rustles against the flesh of my thighs. The grass grows underfoot at the edges of my eyes. There are movements in the branches, feathers, flitting, grace notes. Tree into bird, metamorphosis run wild. Goddesses and possible now, and their air suffuses with desire. Even the bricks of the housing are softening. Even the bricks of the house are softening, becoming tactile. If I leaned against them, they'd be warm and yielding. It's amazing what denial can do. Did the sight of my ankle make him light-hearted, faint at the checkpoint yesterday? When I dropped my past and let him pick it up for me? No handkerchief, no fan. I use what's handy. Winter is not so dangerous. I need hardness, cold, rigidity, not this heaviness, as if I'm a melon on a stem, this liquid ripeness. The commander and I have an arrangement. It's not the first such arrangement in history, though the shape it's taken is not the usual one. I visit the commander 2 or 3 nights a week, always after dinner, but only when I get a signal. The signal is Nick. If he's polishing the car when I set out for the shopping, or when I come back, and if his hat is on askew or not on at all, then I go. If he isn't there, or if he has his hat on straight, then I stay in my room in the ordinary way. On ceremony nights, of course, none of this applies. The difficulty is the wife. As always, after dinner she goes to their bedroom, from where she could conceivably hear me as I sneak along the hall, although I take care to be very quiet. Or she stays in the sitting room, knitting away at her endless angel scarves, turning out more and more yards of intricate, useless wool people. Her form of procreation, it must be. The sitting room door is usually left ajar when she's in there, and I don't dare to go past it. When I've had the signal, but can't make it down the stairs or along the hall past the sitting room, the commander understands. He knows my situation, none better. He knows all the rules. He knows all the rules and continues to break them. Sometimes, however, Serena Joy is out, visiting another commander's wife, a sick one. That's the only place she could conceivably go by herself in the evenings. She takes food, a cake or pie, or a loaf of bread baked by Rita, or a jar of jelly made from the mint leaves she grew in the garden. They get sick a lot, these wives of the commander. It adds interest to their lives. As for us, the handmaids, and even the Marthas, we avoid illness. The Marthas don't want to be forced to retire, because who knows where they go. You don't see that many old women around anymore. And as for us, any real illness, anything lingering, weakening, a loss of flesh or appetite, a fall of hair, a failure of the glands would be terminal. I remember Cora, earlier in the spring, staggering around, even though she had the flu, holding on to the door frames when she thought no one was looking, being careful not to cough. A slight cold, she said when Serena asked her. Serena herself sometimes takes a few days off, tucked up in bed. Then she's the one to get the company, the wives rustling up the stairs. Clucking and cheerful, she gets the cakes, the pies, the jelly, the bouquets of flowers from their gardens. They take turns. There is some sort of list, invisible, unspoken. Each is careful not to hog more than her share of attention. On the nights when Serena is due to be out, I'm sure to be summoned. The first time I was confused. His needs were obscure to me, and what I could perceive of them seemed to me ridiculous, laughable, like a fetish for lace-up shoes. Also, there had been a letdown of sorts. What had I been expecting behind the closed door the first time? Something unspeakable, down on all fours perhaps, perversions, whips, mutilations. At the very least, some minor sexual manipulation, some bygone peccadillo now denied him, prohibited by law and punishable by amputation. To be asked to play Scrabble instead, as if we were an old married couple or two children, seemed kinky in the extreme, a violation too in its own way. As a request, it was opaque. So when I left the room, it still wasn't clear to me what he wanted, or why, or whether I could fulfill any of it for him. If there's to be a bargain, the terms of the exchange must be set forth. This was something he certainly had not done. I thought he might be toying, some cat and mouse routine, but now I think that his motives and desires weren't obvious even to him. They had not yet reached the level of words. The second evening began in the same way as the first. I went to the door, which was closed, knocked on it, was told to come in. Then followed the same two games with the smooth beige counters. Prolix, quartz, quandary, sylph, rhythm. All the old tricks with consonants I could dream up or remember. I've thought about reading them letter by letter, P-R-O, but I don't feel like doing that, so I'll just read the words. My tongue felt thick with the effort of spelling. It was like using a language I'd once known but had nearly forgotten, a language having to do with customs that had long before passed out of the world. Café au lait at an outdoor table with a brioche, absinthe in a tall glass, or shrimp in a cornucopia of newspaper. Things I'd once read about but had never seen. It was like trying to walk without crutches, like those phony scenes in old TV movies. You can do it. I know you can. That was the way my mind lurched and stumbled among the sharp R's and T's, sliding over the ovoid vowels as if on pebbles. The commander was patient when I hesitated, or asked him for a correct spelling. We can always look it up in the dictionary, he said. He said we. The first time I realized he'd let me win. That night I was expecting everything to be the same, including the goodnight kiss. But when we'd finished the second game, he sat back in his chair. He placed his elbows on the arms of the chair, the tips of his fingers together, and looked at me. I have a little present for you, he said. He smiled a little. Then he pulled open the top drawer of his desk and took something out. He held it a moment, casually enough, between thumb and finger, as if deciding whether or not to give it to me. Although it was upside down from where I was sitting, I recognized it. They were once common enough. It was a magazine, a woman's magazine, it looked like, from the picture. A model on glossy paper, hair down, neck scarfed, mouth lipsticked, the fall fashions. I thought such magazines had all been destroyed, but here was one left over in a commander's private study, where you'd least expect to find such a thing. He'd looked down at the model, who was right side up to him. He was still smiling, that wistful smile of his. It was a look you'd give to an almost extinct animal at the zoo. Staring at the magazine as he dangled it before me like fish bait, I wanted it. I wanted it with a force that made the ends of my fingers ache. At the same time, I saw this longing of mine as trivial and absurd. Because I'd taken such magazines lightly enough once. I'd read them in dentist offices and sometimes on planes. I'd bought them to take to hotel rooms, a device to fill in empty time while I was waiting for Luke. After I'd leafed through them, I would throw them away, for they were infinitely discardable, and a day or two later I wouldn't be able to remember what had been in them. Though I remembered now, what was in them was promise. They dealt in transformations. They suggested an endless series of possibilities, extending like the reflections in two mirrors, set facing one another, stretching on, replica after replica, to the vanishing point. They suggested one adventure after another, one wardrobe after another, one improvement after another, one man after another. They suggested renovation, pain overcome and transcended, endless love. The real promise in them was immortality. That was what he was holding, without knowing it. He rifled the pages. I felt myself leaning forward. It's an old one, he said, a curio of sorts, from the 70s, I think, a Vogue. This like a wine connoisseur dropping a name. I thought you might like to look at it. I hung back. He might be testing me, to see how deep my indoctrination had really gone. It's not permitted, I said. And here it is, he said quietly. I saw the point. Having broken the main taboo, why should I hesitate over another one? Something minor, or another, or another. Who could tell where it might stop? Behind the particular door, taboo dissolved. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. He's intentionally dissolving these taboos so he can get away with her being more and more willing to do things that are dangerous, could be deadly for her, that she would not have really even thought about doing before, that she would have been like, no. So he's definitely trying to groom her and make her more comfortable. And I think with the last Handmaid, he was doing the same thing. From what I remember, there was a scenario where he talks about how he didn't want of Fred, this handmaid, to feel like the last one, so had changed things up. But I still think he was doing similar things with the other girl. He just may have been worse. I don't know. All right. I took the magazine from him and turned it the right way around. There they were again, the images of my childhood, bold, striding, confident, their arms flung out as if to claim space, their legs apart, feet planted squarely on the earth. There was something Renaissance about the pose, but it was princes I thought of, not coiffed and ringleted maidens. Those candid eyes, shadowed with makeup, yes, but like the eyes of cats, fixed for the pounce. No quailing, no clinging there, not in those capes and rough tweeds, those boots that came to the knee. Pirates, these women, with their ladylike briefcases for the loot and their horsey, acquisitive teeth. I felt the commander watching me as I turned the pages. I knew I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, and that he found pleasure in seeing me do it. I should have felt evil by Aunt Lydia's lights. I was evil, but I didn't feel evil. Instead, I felt like an old Edwardian seaside postcard. Naughty. What was he going to give me next? A girdle? Why do you have this? I asked him. Some of us, he said, retain an appreciation for the old things. But these were supposed to have been burned, I said. There were house-to-house searches, bonfires. What's dangerous in the hands of the multitudes, he said, with what may or may not have been irony, is safe enough for those whose motives are beyond reproach, I said. He nodded gravely. Impossible to tell whether or not he meant it. Beyond reproach. My ass. But why show it to me, I said, and then felt stupid. What could he possibly say? That he was amusing himself at my expense? For he must have known how painful it was to me to be reminded of the former time. I wasn't prepared for what he actually did say. Who else could I show it to? He said. And there it was again, that sadness. So, like, he's collected these things from the old times, which he can enjoy himself to a certain extent for some of them, but you have nobody to join in on this entertainment or whatever. You have nobody to commune with, to be with, to enjoy this with, which takes the joy out of it. Because if he did it with his wife, there could be problems. If he did it with pretty much anybody who is not scared shitless to fucking tell somebody, they could fucking rat him out. And then he would be in trouble and whatever. But Fred is most likely scared enough not to reveal anything like this, because she would also be in fucking trouble. She would also probably be put on the wall. He would just get in a little trouble, but she would be seriously in trouble. Just the whole scenario. I remember the first time I read this book, some of this stuff, I was just like, I kept going over all these scenarios in my head of like what this could do to a person. How it seems so innocent, but how it could be such a huge problem. And some of the stuff with Nick too. I did a lot of that, like ruminating in my head, all the fucking ways that shit could go wrong, that it wasn't right or fair for her to put her in a situation like that. That they were running risks that were very dangerous for her, more so than them. They're still dangerous for them, but it could be much worse for her. Should I go further? I thought. I didn't want to push him too far, too fast. I knew I was dispensable. Nevertheless, I said, too softly, how about your wife? He seemed to think about that. No, he said. She wouldn't understand. Anyway, she won't talk to me much anymore. We don't seem to have much in common these days. And that, to me, is his fucking fault. He knew who he was marrying. He knew who he was getting involved with. They were very actively involved in the fucking starting up of this whole regime. And then he fucking locks her out. Forcing, like, granted, anybody in this kind of situation, eventually they're going to have to face up to the facts that they are part of this fucking regime as much as all the other wives, and they're going to have to deal with the fucking oppression and repression that all the other wives have to deal with also. But he does not have to completely block her out. He does not have to fucking force her into this role that doesn't fit her. He does not have, like, there's all kinds of things he could do to keep things going, to keep things moving, just because you're not having sex to have children because one or both of you can't have children doesn't mean you should stop having sex. It doesn't mean you should stop being intimate. Even if fucking Gilead is trying to keep you from doing that. What goes on behind closed doors, just like in his office, can still go on behind closed doors. Making your wife miserable so that you can play this fucking Gilead game, that's on him. That is his fault, in my opinion. Anyway, so yeah, her not talking to him anymore, her not being involved, her not understanding, that's because you don't give her a reason to talk to you, to be involved, to understand any of the shit that you're doing. You fucking block her out. All right, where was I? Okay, so there it was, out in the open. His wife didn't understand him. That's what I was there for then. The same old thing. It was too banal to be true. On the third night, I asked him for some hand lotion. I didn't want to sound begging, but I wanted what I could get. Some... What? He said, courteous as ever. He was across the desk from me. He didn't touch me much, except for that one obligatory kiss. No pawing, no heavy breathing, none of that. It would have been out of place, somehow, for him as well as for me. Hand lotion, I said, or face lotion. Our skin gets very dry. For some reason, I said, our instead of my. I would have liked to ask also for some bath oil in those little colored globules you used to be able to get that were so much like magic to me when they existed in the round glass bowl in my mother's bathroom at home. But I thought he wouldn't know what they were. Anyway, they probably weren't made anymore. Dry, the commander said, as if he'd never thought of that before. What do you do about it? We use butter, I said, when we can get it. Or margarine. A lot of the time it's margarine. Butter, he said, musing. That's very clever. Butter, he laughed. I could have slapped him. I think I could get some of that, he said, as if indulging a child's wish for bubble gum. But she might smell it on you. I wondered if this fear of his came from past experience. Long past. Lipstick on the collar, perfume on the cuffs, a scene, late at night in some kitchen or bedroom. A man devoid of such experience wouldn't even think of that, unless he's craftier than he looks. I'd be careful, I said. Besides, she's never that close to me. Sometimes she is, he said. I looked down. I'd forgotten about that. I could feel myself blushing. I won't use it on those nights, I said. On the fourth evening, he gave me the hand lotion in an unlabeled plastic bottle. It wasn't very good quality. It smelled faintly of vegetable oil. No lily of the valley for me. It may have been something they made for the use in hospitals on bed sores, but I thanked him anyway. The trouble is, I said, I don't have anywhere to keep it. In your room, he said, as if it were obvious. They'd find it, I said. Someone would find it. Why? He asked, as if he really didn't know. Maybe he didn't. It wasn't the first time he gave evidence of being truly ignorant of the real conditions under which we lived. They look, I said. They look in all our rooms. What for? He said. I think I lost control then a little. Razor blades, I said. Books, writing, black market stuff. All the things we aren't supposed to have. Jesus Christ, you ought to know. My voice was angrier than I'd intended, but he didn't even wince. Then you'll have to keep it here, he said. So that's what I did. He watched me smoothing it over my hands and then my face with that same air of looking in through the bars. I wanted to turn my back on him. It was as if he were in the bathroom with me, but I didn't dare. For him, I must remember, I am only a whim. Oh. Okay, let's go on to the next chapter. Okay, and more consequences of his Scrabble nights. Let's go to the reading scene. Chapter 26. I thought they would have already started talking about the soul scrolls, but apparently not. When the night of the ceremony came around again, 2 or 3 weeks later, I found that things were changed. There was an awkwardness now that there hadn't been before. Before, I'd treated it as a job, an unpleasant job to be gone through as fast as possible so it could be over with. Still yourself, my mother used to say, before examinations I didn't want to take or swims in cold water. I never thought much at the time about what that phrase meant. Excuse me. But it had something to do with metal, with armor, and that's what I would do. I would steel myself. I would pretend not to be present, not in the flesh. Excuse me. This state of absence, of existing apart from the body, had been true of the commander too. I knew now. Probably he thought about other things the whole time he was with me, with us. For, of course, Serena Joy was there on those evenings also. He might have been thinking about what he did during the day, or about playing golf, or about what he'd had for dinner. The sexual act, although he performed it in a perfunctory way, must have been largely unconscious for him, like scratching himself. But that night, the first since the beginning of whatever this new arrangement was between us, I had no name for it. I felt shy of him. I felt, for one thing, that he was actually looking at me, and I didn't like it. The lights were on as usual, since Serena Joy always avoided anything that would have created an aura of romance or eroticism, however slight. Overhead lights, harsh despite the canopy. It was like being on an operating table in the full glare, like being on a stage. I was conscious that my legs were hairy, in the scraggly way of legs that have once been shaved but have grown back. I was conscious of my armpits too, although, of course, he couldn't see them. I felt uncouth, this act of copulation, fertilization perhaps, which should have been no more to me than a bee is to a flower, and had become for me indecorous, an embarrassing breach of propriety, which it hadn't been before. He was no longer a thing to me. That was the problem. I realized it that night, and the realization has stayed with me. It complicates. Serena Joy had changed for me too. Once I'd merely hated her for her part in what was being done to me, and because she hated me too and resented my presence, and because she would be the one to raise my child. Should I be able to have one after all? And because she was the one to raise my child, should I be the one? Should I be able to have one after all? But now, although I still hated her, no more so than when she was gripping my hands so hard that her rings bit into my flesh, pulling my hands back as well, which she must have done on purpose to make me uncomfortable as she could. The hatred was no longer pure and simple. Partly I was jealous of her. But how could I be jealous of a woman so obviously dried up and unhappy? You can only be jealous of someone who has something you think you ought to have yourself. Nevertheless, I was jealous. But I also felt guilty about her. I felt I was an intruder in a territory that ought to have been hers. Now that I was seeing the commander on the sly, if only to play his games and listen to him talk, our functions were no longer as separate as they should have been in theory. I was taking something away from her, although she didn't know it. I was filching. Never mind that it was something she apparently didn't want or had no use for, had rejected even. Still, it was hers, and if I took it away, this mysterious it, I couldn't quite define, for the commander wasn't in love with me. I refused to believe he felt anything for me as extreme as that. What would be left for her? Why should I care, I told myself. She's nothing to me. She dislikes me. She'd have me out of the house in a minute or worse, if she could think up any excuse at all. If she were to find out, for instance, he wouldn't be able to intervene to save me. The transgressions of women in the household, whether Martha or handmaid, are supposed to be under the jurisdiction of the wives alone. She was a malicious and vengeful woman. I knew that. Nevertheless, I couldn't shake it, that small compunction towards her. Also, I now had power over her, of a kind, although she didn't know it, and I enjoyed that. Why pretend? I enjoyed it a lot. But the commander could give me away so easily, by a look, by a gesture, some tiny slip that would reveal to anyone watching that there was something between us now. He almost did it the night of the ceremony. He reached his
However,
hand he reached his hand up as if to touch my face. I moved my head to the side to warn him away, hoping Serena Joy hadn't noticed, and he withdrew his hand again. Withdrew into himself and his single-minded journey. Now, in the show, he doesn't try, I don't think he tries to reach for her face, but he like puts his hands on her thighs, like tries to cop a feel. And Serena's looking away at the time. So she doesn't necessarily notice what's going on. But sometimes, like people can sense that kind of shit. And so, yeah, June has a right to be fucking petrified. If Serena had any fucking clue that shit like this was going on, it could be a huge problem. So, back to this. Don't do that again, I said to him the next time we were alone. Do what? He said. Try to touch me like that when she's there. Did I? He said. You could get me transferred, I said, to the colonies. You know that. Or worse. I thought he should continue to act in public as if I were a large vase or a window, part of the background, inanimate or transparent. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't mean to, but I find it... What? I said, when he didn't go on. Impersonal, he said. How long did it take you to find that out? I said. You can see from the way I was speaking to him that we were already on different terms. For the generations that come after, Aunt Lydia said, it will be so much better. The women will live in harmony together, all in one family. You will be like daughters to them, and when the population level is up to scratch, again, we'll no longer have to transfer you from one house to another, because there will be enough to go around. There can be bonds of real affection, she said, blinking at us ingratiatingly under such conditions. Women united for a common end, helping one another in their daily chores as they walk the path of life together, each performing her appointed task. Why expect one woman to carry out all the functions necessary to the serene running of a household? It isn't reasonable or humane. Your daughters will have greater freedom. We are working towards the goal of a little garden for each one. Each one of you, the clasped hands again, the breathy voice. And that's just one, for instance, the raised finger wagging at us. But we can't be greedy pigs and demand too much before it's ready, now can we? So, just like some of the stuff Aunt Lydia comes up with, she's like fucking delusional from the beginning. Oh, this is going to be so grand. Like, in some ways, that might seem like a great thing to have them in the same house, like, all helping each other out. But this is all, like, forced help. This isn't them helping each other out of the goodness of their hearts or friendship or anything like that. This is them being forced into a role. And in this situation she's talking about, they're being forced to be stuck in the same household and continuing pumping out babies for this person that they're not allowed to keep. It at least would keep you with your kid, I would think, and maybe it might somehow improve relations, but I just think you're forcing them to, like, you don't know what kind of fucking person you're going to be stuck with for all eternity, until death, or until you're sent off to the colonies for death. The fact is that I'm his mistress. Men at the top have always had mistresses. Why should things be any different now? The arrangements aren't quite the same, granted. The mistress used to be kept in a minor house or apartment of her own, and now they've amalgamated things. But underneath, it's the same, more or less. An outside woman, they used to be called in some countries. I am an outside woman. It's my job to provide what is otherwise lacking, even the Scrabble. It's an absurd as well as an ignominious position. Ignominious position, I think. Sometimes I think sometimes I think she knows. Sometimes I think they're in collusion. Sometimes I think she put him up to it and is laughing at me, as I laugh from time to time, and with irony at myself. Let her take the weight, she can say to herself. Maybe she's withdrawn from him, almost completely. Maybe that's her version of freedom. But even so, and stupidly enough, I'm happier than I was before. It's something to do, for one thing. Something to fill the time at night, instead of sitting alone in my room. It's something else to think about. I don't love the commander or anything like it, but he's of interest to me. He occupies space. He is more than a shadow. And I for him, to him, I'm no longer merely a usable body. To him, I'm not just a boat with no cargo, a chalice with no wine in it, an oven, to be crude, minus the bun. To him, I am not merely empty. And a lot of the stuff that they said in that last passage is stuff that we hear later on in the TV show, when they're talking about these women being used as if they're just a fucking cargo, they're just a chalice, just an empty womb to hold a baby. Although I don't think they really talk about it like that much until it's Serena that's being used as a chalice. But another story for another day. Anyway, let's go to the live scene. So next, was it Tuesday? Tuesday we're going to do 2 more chapters again. I felt like these chapters are a little bit longer, so I'm just going to do 2. And then I think the next one will be 3. And it still didn't talk about the soul scrolls, which I thought it was going to. But yeah, what do we got going on? So we'll do chapter 26 and 27 on Tuesday. I am still doing Tokyo Ghoul reactions, but we're coming to the end, and I did, if you watch any of my anime stuff, I did decide on the next anime to do, because we only have 3 or 4 more episodes of Tokyo Ghoul, and that's going to be Solo Leveling. So if you have any interest in that, in 4 or 5 weeks or something like that, I'll be doing I'll be starting Solo Leveling, which I do those with my kid. My kid does not show in the images. My kid stays off to the side. They watch with me and they listen with me, and every now and then you might hear them, but they don't like their face to be in the videos, so they stay out of it. They do live streams also, but they do not have their face in their live stream either. So anyway, so we'll be switching out Tokyo Ghoul to Solo Leveling after that is done. I am doing the last episode of Night of the Seven Kingdoms on Tuesday as well. That will be the season finale. There is another season coming up. That's just a after watch, and I have started to edit the reactions that I did for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but it might be a while before I put any of those up. I try to wait until I have a set amount of time that I can just put them up one week after another. And plus, I've only gotten almost through one episode, so it could be, and because I'm doing it kind of when I have spare time, it could take me a while to get them all edited because I'm also working on the other stuff. Bridgerton Bridgerton I just finished with episode 4, and there's going to be at least a week before episode 5 is dropped. So that I will probably have a couple weeks between, because it takes me a whole week to edit it. So most likely it'll be the week that we still have before it drops, and then another week for me to edit it. And I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do in its place. I know I have 3 episodes still of Gen V that I need to publish, but I want to publish them back to back, and there's definitely not enough time to get all 3 episodes out. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that. And I was looking at the schedule for later on when Bridgerton and Knight of the Seven Kingdoms are done. I'm going to be switching in spring to the Testaments. I'll be doing reactions to the Testaments. I'll probably do discussions. I can't do too much because there's also going to be Deadlock. So I'm going to do after watches for Deadlock, and I will do reactions for Testaments. If I feel like I have time, I may do a live stream after watch for Testaments also. A lot of the shows, when it comes to Game of Thrones series, when it comes to Handmaid's Tale, I get a lot more into them, and so I want to talk about them more. So I may do some sort of discussion or something like that. Don't know, but I will definitely at least be doing reactions. And then, like I said, with Deadlock, I'll be doing after watch I'll be doing after watch live streams, and I'll treat them the same as I do A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I will create reactions. They will just stay on the back burner until I actually have time to get them edited and put them up. What else is going on? I think that's it. Actually, here, let me go to the starting soon screen because it has my schedule. So we'll continue the Tuesday, Sunday Handmaid's Tale things. And the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, this coming Tuesday is the last one until they have another season out. And House of the Dragon, I think, comes out this summer in June. Yeah, House of the Dragon season 3 comes out this summer. I'll be doing reactions for that. And actually, I think when House of the Dragon comes out, I do not have a second thing going on. So I can probably do reactions and after watches for House of the Dragon, because I won't hopefully have as much going on. I do have that trip to Ireland that we're going to be doing, but we'll see. I'm trying to get enough ahead there that whenever I go on vacation, I will just have stuff. Like right now, I have enough that I can put content out while I'm on vacation, and still be like in a good spot or whatever. But I still it's not enough that I wouldn't have to like work on anything. I would still have to be working on editing stuff while I'm on vacation. I want to get to where I have enough extra done that I can go on vacation, publish the stuff when I need to while I'm on vacation, but not actually have to do much work at all on editing while I'm gone. Like, the little stuff is one thing, but the editing is very tedious and it's definitely not my favorite thing. The editing is my least favorite thing. So, Now you know. Not like I haven't talked about it before. I don't really care for the editing. All right, anyway, let's get off of here. um is there anything else that I want to talk about? I don't know. I'm going to be cleaning up the last bunch of baseboards in my house. This has nothing to do with anything that I do on this channel, but I've been cleaning the baseboards because I plan on removing them, sanding them down, and having them repainted. And I am going to, once I get the baseboards done, I'm having painters come over to give me a quote as to how much it would cost, pick one of the painters and have them come back. But I wanted the baseboards to be removed before they start painting. So I have been cleaning the baseboards so that they will be ready for me to start trying to carefully remove them. And I would not remove them from the walls, but we plan on replacing our flooring, which is not going to be the same depth. So I'm going to need, as far as I can tell, I'm going to need to have the baseboards up a little higher on the wall after we've replaced the flooring. So, yeah, that's what's going on right now, other than taking care of my kid and sending them to school and trying to figure out what schools they should apply for after they get done with their AA, or before they're done with their AA, but when they're close to done with their AA, is cleaning off these baseboards, get the painters over here to give us a quote, remove the freaking baseboards. I will start removing them before I have them come over for a quote, but I definitely want them completely removed before they come in. I don't care if they paint them or I paint them. They're just going to be a pure, like ultra pure white or whatever, but it needs to be done. Everything in this house that has not already been painted it's like the base coat from when we moved in, from when the house was built well over 20 years ago. So it needs a new paint job. The baseboards are gonna need to be cleaned off, sanded down, and all of that. So fun. Our 3 bedrooms, though, are the only ones that we're not replacing the flooring in. I think I can get away with leaving the carpet in them because it's not so messed up. So as long as we just steam clean the carpet, I think it'll be all right. So the 3 bedrooms, the carpet will stay the same. And the rest of the house, the kitchen, the bathrooms, the living room, the dining room, the computer room, the entryway, all of it is getting new flooring. So, fun. Anyway, that is all I got for you. I will see you when I see you. Bye. Go. Do. La. Oh, I didn't end the stream. I just shut off the recording.